Welcome to the Deep Dive. We go deep into a new topic every episode. And today we're taking a look at Danica McKellar's book, Math Doesn't Suck: How to Survive Middle School Math Without Losing Your Mind or Breaking a Nail. It's a really interesting guide to middle school math aimed specifically at girls. But before you think, oh, this isn't for me,
right?
Trust me, there's something here for absolutely everyone. I know you read this book too, and you're kind of a math person yourself.
Oh, yeah. I love this book.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's so approachable. And Danica McKellar, you probably know her from the Wonder Years, actually has a math degree from UCLA.
That's right.
Which is super impressive.
Yeah, she talks about that in the book and how she turned from someone who was like terrified of math into someone who loves it. And now she's teaching other people how to do the same thing.
Yeah, she really embraces her intelligence in the book. And she talks about how her acting career actually led her to question her self-worth for a while. Yeah, because she was getting attention for her looks, but not necessarily for her intelligence. And I think that's when she really realized, oh, it's important to develop your mind.
Right.
And that's kind of a theme throughout the book.
Yeah, for sure. So the book is divided into different sections, starting with the very, very basics. Like she has this easy divisibility tricks chart to figure out if a number is divisible by 2, by 3, by 5, and, on and on.
She does a really good job of breaking down these potentially intimidating concepts into bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, and explaining them.
Yeah.
In a way that anyone can understand. For example, she introduces the concept of prime numbers.
Oh.
And instead of, going into a very dry textbook definition, she calls them primitive or uncomplicated numbers.
Yeah, she uses a lot of fun analogies. She has one for factoring.
Oh, yeah.
Where she talks about designing a bracelet with jade and onyx beads.
Right, and the number of beads in each group represents the factors of the total number of beads.
Exactly. And I love that analogy because you can really picture it.
Yeah, it makes it very concrete. She also uses this really funny crush analogy to explain the greatest common factor, or the GCF. And it's about comparing traits of your old and new crushes to find the common factors between them.
Right. So sometimes I prefer using Venn diagrams to represent the GCF just because it's a little bit more visual for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. So she has a few different methods for finding the GCF. She also has the prime factorization method, and she has something called the birthday cake method.
Oh, yeah, the birthday cake method.
Which is really cool.
It's so visual.
Yeah, you're like dividing the numbers like you're cutting a cake into equal slices, and each slice represents a common factor. So it's all about finding what works best for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And moving beyond factors, she also talks about multiples. And she uses this funny story about accidentally buying her sister multiple pairs of the same shoes.
Oh, yeah.
To illustrate the concept.
Yeah. She's really good at using humor and personal anecdotes to make these concepts relatable. She does something similar when she talks about dividing fractions.
Yeah.
She has this scenario with dividing lattes among actors.
Right.
And it just makes it clear that, fractions, they're not just some abstract thing that can be applied to everyday situations.
She also uses a really practical example when she's explaining mixed numbers and improper fractions.
Yeah.
Like the example of ordering 112 turkey sandwiches.
Right. Like in normal life, you would never say, I want 32 of a turkey sandwich.
Right, exactly.
You would say 112.
So it's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
And, speaking of practical applications, she has this great anecdote about needing to calculate how much moisturizer to bring on a trip to Bulgaria.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And she realized she needed to figure out how much moisturizer she used per day to avoid running out during her trip.
Right.
And that's like a perfect illustration of unit rates. It shows how math can be used in even the most unexpected situations.
Absolutely. She's constantly reminding us that math is all around us.
Yeah, it's not just something that you do in school and then forget about.
And then she moves on to proportions, and she uses this analogy, gloves are to hands as socks are to feet. To kind of get at that idea of how two ratios can be equivalent.
Yeah. And she connects this back to filmmaking.
Oh, yeah.
And explains how proportions are used to scale objects in movies so they look realistic.
Right. You don't want like a giant hand and a tiny little teacup or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then she brings it back to everyday life with a story about needing to figure out the width of a ring that she was buying online. So proportions are all over the place. Then there's unit multipliers.
Oh, yeah. Those are important.
Yeah, she explains them through converting ounces to milliliters, which is really useful if you're cooking with international recipes.
Yeah, or traveling.
Right, exactly. Or if you're just trying to understand like a label on something that's from another country. So unit multipliers are basically fractions that are equal to 1. And if you set them up correctly, you can cancel out unwanted units and convert to the ones that you want.
Right. It's like a puzzle where the pieces fit together to give you the right answer.
And then she gets into word problems.
Oh, yeah.
Which a lot of people are intimidated by.
For sure.
She has this concept of translating English into math and her of multiplication rule.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really helpful because it clarifies that of often means multiplication in word problems.
Right. So it takes some of the guesswork out of it. She also talks about percent off sales and fraction off sales. And she gives you steps for how to calculate discounts and final prices.
Which is like really applicable to everyday life, especially if you're shopping.
Especially if you're on a budget.
Right. So then we move on to ratios. And she uses this very relatable experience of talking on the phone with a friend to introduce the idea that ratios are comparisons of two numbers that have the same units.
Right. You're not comparing like hours to minutes.
Right. You're comparing apples to apples.
Apples, exactly.
And she points out that ratios can be written in different ways. You can use the word to, you can use a colon, or you can even write it as a fraction.
Right. It depends on what you're doing with it.
Exactly. And then she warns about sneaky ratios that try to trick you with different units. So always pay attention to the units involved. And then she goes back to unit rates, which we talked about earlier with the moisturizer example. And a unit rate is basically just a rate with a denominator of 1.
Right.
So it allows us to compare things on a common scale like cost per item or miles per hour.
Yeah. Or beats per minute in music.
Right, exactly. And then she provides clear steps for calculating unit rates and emphasizes the importance of including the units in your answer.
Right, because 5 doesn't mean anything if you don't know if it's 5 miles per hour or 5 apples or whatever.
So now we get into like the more personal growth aspects of the book.
Oh, yeah. This is my favorite part.
Yeah, she talks about her own struggles with math anxiety and how she overcame them. And she really highlights that intelligence is a tool that can't be taken away from you.
Yeah, and she has this great story about how her college math professor really encouraged her.
Oh, wow.
And she even felt self-doubt.
Really?
Even though she excelled in math.
Wow.
It just goes to show that, everyone feels that way sometimes.
Even people that we think of as geniuses.
Exactly.
She also really goes after that stereotype that, girls can't be smart and glamorous at the same time.
Right. She's like, you can be both.
Right.
You can be intelligent and embrace your femininity.
And she even has this like cheerleader technique.
Oh, yeah.
For overcoming test anxiety, which she used to get over her fear of the reading comprehension section of standardized tests.
It's about finding strategies to manage those stressful situations and believing in your ability to succeed.
So she gives a ton of tips in the book for overcoming common math struggles.
Yeah.
Like boredom and fear and careless mistakes and test anxiety. She emphasizes the importance of asking questions in class.
Yes.
Reading the directions carefully and not being afraid to use scratch paper to work through problems.
Right. Don't be afraid to get messy.
Yeah. It's all about finding what works for you and remembering that it's okay to make mistakes.
Exactly.
In the conclusion of the book, she says, smart is friggin' sexy.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a real call to action. She's encouraging young girls to embrace their intelligence and pursue their passions with confidence.
Yeah, don't let anyone tell you that you can't be smart and beautiful and successful.
Yeah, and she has a Smart Girls resource guide on her website.
Oh, cool.
That provides additional support and tools for continued math exploration.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive into math doesn't suck, we're left with this question. How can we apply these concepts to our own lives?
Right.
Whether we're students or professionals or just, navigating the world around us.
It's really everywhere, from budgeting and shopping to problem solving and, making decisions. It's all around us.
Math is constantly at play, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah. We're always analyzing data and recognizing patterns, even if we don't think we're doing math.
So I think Danica McKellar's book is really a great reminder that math doesn't have to be scary.
Yeah.
It can be a tool for empowerment
Totally.
and confidence and endless possibility.
It's like a superpower that you can use to make your life better.
So if you're ready to embrace your inner math whiz and see the world through this new lens, I highly recommend checking out Math Doesn't Suck by Danica McKellar.
Yeah, it's a great book.
It's really a game changer. And it's not just for middle schoolers.
No, not at all.
Or even just for girls.
Anyone can benefit from it.
And if you like this deep dive and you want more, be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, we've got tons of other deep dives on all sorts of topics.
Yeah, we release new episodes every week, so there's always something new to learn. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend.
Yeah, spread the math love.
Because sharing knowledge is one of the best ways to multiply its impact.
I love that.
So thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of middle school math.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, I hope you learned something new. And maybe even had a little fun along the way.
Math can be fun.
Yeah. Remember, math doesn't have to suck.
It really doesn't.
It can be a source of empowerment and confidence and endless possibilities.
For sure.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world around you.